LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. My name is Peter Murphy Lewis. I'm your host. I'm at day 2 of the LeadingAge Virginia Convention. I'm excited because I'm talking to Winoka Clements, the Senior Director of HR at Vincent Hall Retirement Community. Winoka, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
Winoka, right before we started, you had a teammate come over and tell me that you're a board member, tomorrow you're on a panel. Let's start off with how long have you been coming to LeadingAge, why you come, and what you're excited about doing with the board?
Great question. So I started coming to LeadingAge, I would say, in 2020. I've been in long-term care. This is my 4th community now, so maybe about 15 years. I started off in healthcare at a home health company, which kind of started the fire, if you will, for caring for older people. And then I've done that for about 5 years at a home health company. So I'm excited to be here again at LeadingAge. Being a part of the board is a stretch goal. It's very exciting. I'm a little scared of what that means, but looking forward to contributing to the board for LeadingAge and also growing myself.
What do you expect to be the learning curve in terms of the board? Because you're obviously going to have to keep your ears to the floor, listen to what the other members need. You're going to have to be able to, what's the word? I can't think of the word. You're going to be able to have to process complex information and find ways to pass it down. You're going to have to advocate. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you?
I think the biggest challenge for me may be to prioritize what my thoughts are. As I look at the current board, or before today board, I didn't really see HR people represented, the workforce represented, that an HR person can do. And so definitely I've got a lot of priorities. I got a lot of things that I think we should be doing, we should be striving for. So really just picking the 1 or 2, I guess, priorities would probably be one of the learning curves for me. And then just understanding how a board works. We have a board, we're not-for-profit, we have a board at our community. So I participate as an employee in the board meetings and that structure, but it'll be different sitting on the other side of the table, if you will.
I want to go back to your initiation story, but before we do that, tomorrow you're going to be talking about advocacy. Obviously that's going to be an important topic for you when you're on the board. What more than your talking points, what are the part of the advocacy that you're passionate about, feel comfortable talking about, and give me a little bit of what's happening currently right now in Virginia with advocacy at the board level?
Yeah, great question. So advocacy, being the advocacy person for Vincent Hall, my community, was another stretch goal. I really wasn't involved in politics or bill making and all of that prior to this experience. However, having had the opportunity to go to the Hill and talk to some of the representatives or their aides was really eye-opening. But I walked away wondering, are they actually listening to the constituents, right? Or are we just talking? And so I've spent a good amount of time of talking to Dana and others, my colleagues, about the real work that advocacy brings and the changes that happen. And what was interesting when we were on the Hill was the aides were saying, yep, we heard that from this group, or we heard that from this group over here. So we are all speaking the same language. It's just, are they listening? Are the folks that are in charge making the decisions on either side of the aisle, are they listening to the constituents?
What did you learn? I guess from my point of view, since I've never really worked in advocacy, I think that I would walk in already with a negative point of view, with a pessimistic point of view, and be like, they're not going to listen, I don't know if it's worth it. But I'm certain, your peers, other board members would tell you, this is worth the fight. So what have you learned in that huge bridge between where probably I sit and where you have to sit?
Right. Well, I am new at this. So as a kindergartner in the world of advocacy, one thing was interesting to me. I went in with these expectations that I was going to actually talk to the senator. Well, that's not really who you talk to. You talk to to their aides, and then they deliver the message. And so really, I hope that what happens is, they're listening to enough of us, all the various groups. We are following. So now I'm tasked with, staying current with what's happening both in Virginia and and nationwide. The current thing that really sets on my plate, if you will, is this staff model, the bills that they're trying to pass about staffing ratios. We've been threatened with staffing ratios for years and years in long-term care, and as an HR person, yes, ideally I want this number of staff to resident care, absolutely. And so there was a lot of conversation when we were on the Hill about staffing models. Is that the answer to the problem that people see with not enough staff working in long-term care, or is there another solution? So I was passionate about, let's talk about staffing, let's talk about whether the problem is recruiting or retaining staff, because what the aides were saying was it was about the retention of staff. And I shared, well, I don't really have the problem in the retention side, it's the recruiting side. So how are you helping us find enough people, hire enough people? Our reimbursement rates may be going up so that we can pay a living wage or a comparable pay to our peers versus saying you need to have X number to X number of residents.
I don't think I've ever interviewed someone who comes from the HR area but also has a dual role now with advocacy. Do you have any unique, I guess, not opinions, unique perceptions or models that you would like to see discussed when we're talking about staffing, and maybe beyond ratios, maybe beyond reimbursements? Is there anything nuanced that you're seeing that like, oh yeah, that's a cool framework for thinking about it?
Yeah, great question. So during my time in aging services, I did go through and obtain my LNHA, my licensed nursing home administrator. And so for 3 years, I practiced as an administrator of a community. 65 beds, I had staff, I was, worked with the director of nursing, running the skilled floor. And so stepping out of HR into operations helped me to better understand the pain points on the operation side, right? And so I think that's perhaps what I bring uniquely, is not just this HR, yep, you got these numbers, but here is how you actually run a skilled floor or an assisted living floor, whatever the case might be. That's what I'm bringing, which may be slightly different, but I think we all are experiencing the same thing. So I'm not necessarily coming up with new ideas that someone else hasn't come up with, but just a different perspective.
Tell me, from a HR point of view, what are the KPIs or metrics at your organization that you're most proud of? Maybe it's retention, maybe it's just a net promoter score from your staff, or maybe it's retention of leadership. What are you really proud of?
I would say at Vincent Hall, probably the things that come to mind first as we are all talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We've done some amazing work with helping our staff to have this sense of belonging, which then leads to the retention, right? It improves the retention. So that's been a big win for us. We have also taken a lot of time and effort to figure out what really our staff are needing to support them. Mental health awareness, both physical, all of that. We spent a lot of time helping and supporting our staff, putting programs in place, if you will, because even though we like to say the direct care, the frontline staff were essential staff during COVID, from my perspective, they've always been essential staff. And so I hope to continue supporting them so that they feel that they truly are essential staff.
I kind of want to transition into a topic that I haven't prepared you for at all, so feel free to say like, not my interest or area of expertise. I'm interested in the cultural or communication gap between the younger generation, Gen Zs, millennials, and us old men and us older ladies. Because I do speaking programs and about recruiting Gen Z, I'm passionate about it. And when I get off stage, people come up to me like, I don't like working with them. They just look at their cell phone all the time. I don't like this generation. And my parents say that about my generation. I'm saying probably about the next generation. How do you deal with that?
That's an amazing question. And here is my view. I don't want to put any persons in a box, whether that's a race box or gender box or generation box. So I tend to look at people for people. And I know that sounds like fluff, because there are folks in my generation, I don't know if it's our generation, at least my generation, that are very much different than the norms of that generation. There are baby boomers that are very much more active than what we think of a baby boomer. So I move past the generation piece, because I'm learning from both younger people, technology stuff, and older people technology stuff, if that makes sense. So I tend not to, I try my best not to put people in boxes. And when I'm in front of my staff or in front of my leadership team, we're not going to say that this generation has this work ethic, this generation has this one, because you have people all over the place. There's all kinds of work ethics in all the generations.
I'm, I One of the things that let me back this up. One of the things that I've learned from recruiting and working with Gen Z, the average person on my team probably is 24 years old, is they've taught me about communication. What have you learned about trying to bring in a younger generation for the staffing shortage, making sure that they're supporting your team, making sure they stay around a lot longer than entry? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about the generation without putting them in a box?
Yeah. What I've learned is stop doing things the same way we've always done them just because we've always done them that way. I think if I am to put them in a box, that the younger generation is very good at, well, let's try it this way. Well, why haven't we done it this way? Let's streamline it in this way. Where some of us older generation, nope, we've been doing it this way, it's working. If it's not broke, why try to fix it? So that's one growth or benefit that I've had. And then I was at another conference last month, and we talked about, it was an HR conference, and we talked about looking past the relationship with a person to just the time they work at my company. But the relationship should go further than that. Once they leave our company, right? Maybe it's an LPN and they leave us, go get their RN license, and then I say, hey, we still have this relationship. Are you ready to come back and work as an RN charge nurse? And so I think we all have to think about the relationship outside of the time they spent at your company.
I love that. The program that I'm going to be speaking about in an hour and a half is about how important the book Five Languages has been for me as a husband, as a son, as a brother, and I use it in my framework for connecting individuals. And I think what you said, you gave me some words that I think are related to it. It teaches me how to think of it as a relationship, because I figure out how that person wants to be appreciated, whether they're working with me today or whether they moved on and I see them a year from now at a convention.
Yep. And there's a talent pool there for us. So back to the recruiting perspective, I've got, I don't know, let's just say 200 employees who previously worked for us. So there potentially are 200 people I could call, right? Let's say in good stand, all of that may want to come back and work for us. So not just the folks who have applied on Indeed or have applied on our website, but here's a whole other list of people that I have, maybe not me personally, but we have some experience with. So why not keep that relationship going?
I want to go back to your initiation story, how you got in the long care. I'm going to frame it in the following way. I think the best thing that I can do at LTC Heroes is translate the intangibles of this industry, the things that you learn about yourself from your peers, seniors, and caring about other people. So I want you to tell me what your is, but then also move into when you realize this industry's changed me, that this place is working on me, not me just working for the industry. I can tell by your emotional intelligence, you definitely know where I'm going.
Yep. That's a great question. And I'll say, a lot of times about the personal experience they've had with an older family member. And I'll say mine is slightly different. It was a personal experience with a disabled adult that was in my house. And the experience that they had with care, with the nurse coming in, I mean, just that experience being the spouse or the step of this adult was very and the challenges as the caregiver and finding good caregivers really drew me to, at least on the home health side, right? And so then once I got into home, I realized, right, it's disabled adults, it's older adults, it's also probably younger adults or younger children that need direct care, need caregivers, need nurses, need some services. So that probably is what helped me to stay in this industry, if you will, and or at least get into the industry. Staying in the industry are the people, and people often say it's the residents, and I add it's all the staff. I mean, things that direct care staff help people with, the wide gamut of things. It's very personal. It's close. It's connective. And if I can support those people making those connections, then I wake up feeling proud of myself every day.
How, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. If there's a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old who sees you get up every single day and go to work, and they live across the street from you, and they come over and they're like, you know what? Well, no, I don't know if I should go to community college. I don't really want to know what I want to do. My brother just picked up $30,000 in college debt and doesn't even do what he studied. I'm thinking about long-term care. What would you tell them to test out as a CNA or as a volunteer?
Absolutely, because the growth, the career ladders, the growth, the development, the mentoring that you can long-term care is amazing. You can come in as a server, and I talk about this at new hire orientation. You can have started as a housekeeper or a line cook or whatnot. You can move into marketing, you can move into HR, you can move into this, you can move into that. So it's almost like there is this whole industry of career path. So at 16 years old, while you're trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, just experience long-term care. And if you're the right person for our mission, what we do, you will connect with the people that you are caring for, and you will find your path. There are so many paths to find.
I appreciate you joining me on the program at LTC Heroes. It was a pleasure. You let me jump all around for the place. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you next year.
Absolutely. Thank you.